joining us this morning is Senator JV Ejercito. Senator JV, good morning to you.
Hi Karen, good morning, and to all the viewers of Head Start, of course. Nice to be back.
All right. Now, what are your thoughts, the change from the 2025 budget to the 2026 proposed budget is PhilHealth in 2025 had zero subsidy, and in 2026, it is set to receive 53.3 billion pesos in subsidies. Let's talk about that particular change.
Well, of course, Karen, I will be biased, no, because as you know, I'm the principal sponsor and author of the Universal Healthcare Act, and any budget, no, that will be allotted for PhilHealth, of course, will be for UHC. Of course, I will support that. Just briefly, Karen, during the 2025 budget, it so happened that I was the one defending the OTR at the time, and one of the controversial issues that time was that foreign assisted or the priority programs, so like the railways, were booked under the unprogrammed funds in the previous budget. So I was focusing on that, and luckily I really fought for it that the foreign assisted funding for these priority projects be lodged under the program funds, which should be, no, because that's one of my advocacies as well. So win some, lose some. I would say that I signed the budget for 2025. Doesn't mean that I am really happy or agree with totally with it, but I was happy because the one that I fought for the foreign assistant was already lodged in the program funds. But yung pong sa PhilHealth, of course, I really had reservations on it because I know for a fact, Karen, that that fund came from the sin taxes, allocations from PAGCOR and PCSO, and these are from special laws, no, that earmarks this particular funding for PhilHealth, for UHC implementation. So it's already in the Supreme Court. So I'm happy that this year at least it would not. There's already it's clear that PhilHealth will be funded already.
Okay. Now, being one of the principal authors of the Universal Healthcare Law, I wanted to ask you, when you made this law, magkano dapat ang kailangan taon-taon para maging matagumpay ang batas na ito? Because the Universal Healthcare Law has a lofty goal.
Yes.
Anybody na pumunta sa public hospital, walang babayaran. Pero hindi naman nangyayari yun. Hindi nga sila makapunta ngayon sa public emergency rooms. So, when you made this law, magkano dapat taon-taon ang pondo ng batas na ito?
From what I remember, Karen, we started with 257 billion and it goes up every year.
Billion.
Yeah,
Oh.
That includes already the budget of Department of Health, and
Okay.
that's the whole healthcare budget, including UHC and PhilHealth. So PhilHealth has its own budget, but the government or it also derives certain from the General Appropriations Act, meron pa rin pong subsidy. So that's what became controversial. That's why, Karen, this year, my very first bill was, I filed a supplemental budget of 70 billion for PhilHealth, so that in line with the President's directive na rin po na zero balance billing, no, I'm very happy that at least now UHC is now being given priority and importance. It's a 10-year program actually, Karen. No? We're on the 5th year. A lot of challenges still. We're still far from it, admittedly. But, we're getting there slowly. But now with the President's directive, I'm optimistic this time that it will now be given attention. Ako nga, Karen, not to just my own opinion, no? Instead of giving so much funding for other social programs. So, nandiyan po yung AIX. Of course, I'm not against AIX, AKAP, TUPAD, but I think it's better if we give it all to UHC, because this one is direct.
Oo.
accessed by the people every time they are in need, no, of assistance from government. So hopefully it's a shot in the dark itong supplemental budget. If you notice, it's 70 billion. It's the same, almost the same amount that was taken away during the 2025 budget. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that it can be given back to PhilHealth.
Okay, so with the 53 billion that is proposed, most likely programmed yun, no? And matutuloy na yun. Yung supplemental request nyo na 70 billion, will that mean it's 53 plus 70 and it will all go to universal healthcare?
Yes, Karen, because again, I will maintain that those funds are earmarked. No, those are derived from sin taxes, yung mga sugar, sweetened beverage, tobacco, PCSO, social fund.
Ang tanong ko, saan nila dinadala yun, Senator?
Yeah,
yung hanggang naka-earmark dapat sa health, saan nila nililipat yun?
Well, that is the question, no? Because as mentioned, it's earmarked for health.
Yeah.
And after it became controversial because of the supposedly reserve funds were tapped for other priority programs. Ang sabi naman ng DOF, it was also used for health related programs. But you know, Karen, I'm hopeful that with the new PhilHealth head now, Dr. Mercado, who is a public health practitioner, we got to talk. This time they will improve the participation of PhilHealth na yung sa hospital bills. They will now try to improve the percentage of their participation. Dati kasi parang private corporation under Ledesma, no? They were so proud of their reserve funds, of their savings at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I think it's that's where all of this controversy started. You know, Karen, in budgeting, if there are reserve funds or funds that are not being utilized, it will be used for other purposes. So, had PhilHealth used it for its members' benefits, wala sana tayo pinag-uusapang controversy.
Oo. Pero Senator, technically speaking, when the law was made to tax sweetened beverages, etc., it states there that the collections for that additional tax will go to health. Would it be against the law or in violation of the law for the executive to actually use that funding for something else?
Karen, from what I gather, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that will be technical malversation because
Exactly.
the laws dictates that it is earmarked for a specific purpose, and then it should be used for that specific program or project, Karen. So,
At sinabi nyo, may kaso ngayon sa Korte Suprema.
that is correct.
Oo. At wala pang desisyon. Yun lang ang malungkot. Dapat kasi tapusin na ito, tuldukan na ito, sir, eh. 'Di ba?
Well, I'm hoping, Karen, that this time around with Dr. Mercado, sabi ko nga, yung pondo ng PhilHealth, we should not treat it like a private insurance. You know, in a private insurance, if you can get away with liability, you'll have a bigger margin and savings at the end of the year. And pinagmalaki dati ni Ledesma, he had 500 billion reserve fund, and that's why, of course, you can't blame the economic managers who wanted to fund other priority programs that we have 500 billion that is not being used. So, hoping that this time, sabi ko, pag pondo ng for public services, especially for health, gamitin yan, dapat maramdaman yan.
Dapat maubos.
Dapat ubusin yan.
Oo.
Karen, it's frustrating to get complaints from our citizens, no? from people that, for example, 100,000 yung hospital bill, sasagutin ng PhilHealth 7,000, 8,000 pesos.
Yes.
You know, sasabihin na because that's the case rate, they should have adjusted the case rates long before so that it will be in tune with the inflation and other factors. And again, if we can give 20, 30, 40% or even 50% of hospital bills, if PhilHealth can absorb that, it will be a big help for every Filipino. At least we will now be yung target natin for universal healthcare to lessen the out-of-pocket expense will be achieved.
Okay. Now, Senator, with 53 billion pesos in the NEP for PhilHealth subsidy, you want an oversight panel to ensure, right, that the law, yung pera na ilalaan dito will actually benefit the poorest of the poor. Ang tanong ko, how should the 53 billion pesos subsidy be implemented? Ano ang tamang paraan?
Well, actually, Karen, I thank you. That's actually for the premium. There are two types of members. So, indirect contributors, these are the employees that pay the premiums, and the indirect contributors, these are the PWD, senior citizens, indigents, or the poorest of the poor who cannot afford to pay their premiums. But that will be used also for the benefit packages.
Okay.
So, now with the President's pronouncement during SONA that zero balance billing na ang lahat ng DOH hospital, we can expect that there will be people who will be now coming in droves in the DOH hospitals. Just what happened in PGH is Avenue Medical Center. We have to support that, and definitely the cost of maintaining DOH hospitals will now increase. So that's why I really proposed the supplemental budget so that we, in line with the President's directive, will be able to support it. And at least it will really benefit the people. Hindi lang to ordinary ayuda, Karen. At least it's directly will be felt by the people.
Now, you being a health advocate, Senator Ping Lacson pointed out that the transfer of funds, right, of PhilHealth was illegal. And yet, it happened. The Senate allowed it. Some feel you allowed it. Why did you allow the transfer of PhilHealth funds?
Well, actually, Karen, that was the General Appropriations Act is a law in itself. No, when lawmakers sign it, it's a law. And during that time, because of the economic managers were looking for funding for other priority programs, they saw PhilHealth's very big reserve funds. As I mentioned earlier, kasalanan talaga ito ng old PhilHealth administration. Instead of being able to use it for the benefit of the members, for subsidizing the hospital bills, improving the benefit packages, and others, they were more proud of having a savings and a big reserve fund.
So, sinasabi niyo kumbaga, binigyan ng dahilan ng health management ang economic managers to justify the transfer. But looking at it now, considering the Supreme Court has ordered, right, a return, ang tanong ko, do you now believe that was illegal?
Well, I don't agree with it. Definitely, Karen. As I mentioned earlier, when I signed the budget, it's win some, lose some. It doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with everything on it, but that time I was really focusing on the foreign assisted priority programs because I happened to defend the OTR that time. Nailagay naman natin sa program funds, no, instead of program funds the previous years. So yung pong sa PhilHealth was really, I would say that I did not agree with it, Karen.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to show you something that, let's talk about the flood control projects. DPWH is at number 2 based on the NEP at 800 plus billion pesos, right? And I want to show you a graphic that Navotas Representative Toby Tiangco discovered in the 2025 budget. I hope we can show this. Inisa-isa niya yung distrito ng mga congressman at na-discover niya, eto papakita ko, I show this to my guests because you will be talking about the budget and I don't want this to happen again. So this is a district in Occidental Mindoro. One is Oriental Mindoro. I had asked him, yung net DPWH budget niya nung una, 2.5 billion lang. Nung lumabas sa GAA, naging 20.9 billion pesos. So nasaksakan ito ng mahigit sa 18 billion. Yung isa namang distrito, 1.5 billion sa net, bigla na lang naging 20.7 billion pesos. So the controversy is what's discussed in the BICAM, umaakyat. Pero may isinisingit sa small committee. So Senator Ejercito, what should be done para hindi na kayo lahat malusutan? Ang mahirap, di ba, the budget is so thick.
Yes.
And nalulusutan kayong lahat ng mga kongresista. Alam mo, yun ang totoo eh. Sumasaksak sila. Di ba? And by the time it gets to you, none of you see it.
Yes, Karen, it's also humanly impossible for us to be able to go through the whole budget. As you mentioned, millions. So there are millions of entries in those.
Yeah.
So minsan talaga hindi mo na napapansin, may mga talagang nakakalusot. And going to the flood control issue, Karen, no, I have always, simple lang yan, common sense tells us, flood control, we have a list of flood-prone provinces, top 10. But when you look at the table of the top 10 provinces that got the flood control budget, there's a disconnect. Dapat, common sense tells you, dapat, kung ano yung flood-prone provinces, the flood control budget should be focused on those top 10 flood-prone provinces. So, nakakalungkot talaga, Karen, because I think yung every year, yung Central Luzon flooding, Pampanga, Tarlac, Bulacan, Metro Manila, parang every year, we have a hearing on that. If year in, year out, same issues, it doesn't get solved every year. Because what we need to really to solve flooding in these areas are big ticket flood mitigation projects like floodways, spillways, water impounding projects, reservoirs, and strategic pumping stations. But what comes out, Karen, pinagtatagpi-tagpi, I think every district wants a piece of the flood control budget. So, naghahati-hati sa slow protection, drainage improvement, sa drainage, kung ano-ano pa. So, in the end, hindi natin nagaga on what needs to be done really to solve the major flooding in Central Luzon and other flood-prone provinces. Kasi nga, pinaghahati-hati. Kumbaga, patsi-patsi yung mga proyekto. So, just like water, Karen, pagpatsi-patsi yan, hahanap ng lulusutan yan at magbabaha pa rin. And I think that's what's really happening in the budget. I mamaya later I will tell you also a story, no, our personal experience in San Juan on why I think it if it happens here, it happens also elsewhere.
Yeah. What is? Do you want to share the story quickly now?
I don't want to sound parochial, Karen, no? Sabihin na naman dahil in Zamoras and we don't agree. Pero Mayor Francis Zamora before, kasi you know our history, sabi niya hindi ka papapasukin yung mga project na estrada or airset dito sa San Juan. Karen, when I was mayor for 9 years, congressman for 3 years, and a senator, we had flood-prone areas also in San Juan, near the San Juan River.
Okay.
And during the time I was mayor, si Toby Tiangco then was mayor of Navotas. Navotas is below sea level, always flooded also.
And ironically, Navotas does not get the highest flood control funding. Hindi Navotas, but go on.
But he was able to solve that through his bombastic pumps that he installed in strategic places in Navotas. So to cut it short, ginaya namin yon. I was able to put 5 pumping stations in the flood-prone, yung mga basin barangays na kahit 2 weeks na may tubig pa rin. So natanggal namin yung baha. And one more, I lack one more, yung San Perfecto Batis. And now, Karen, if it rains hard, kawawa, 1 week, 2 weeks, 15 feet, 20 feet, kawawa po yung mga nandun, still underwater for a long time. For 3 years in a row, I've been, I admit, nagpapa-insert ako. It's not bad to insert if it's really for the good of the people. I was asking for a for a pumping station, in particular for San Perfecto in Batis area, kasi yun na lang yung last. Oo, si Secretary Bonoan, oo, yung dating secretary, para lang mapasa yung budget, they will commit para nga mawawa na may mga tao. And then after, mawawala. Susulat si Congressman Ronnie Zamora that time.
So
Iraq
are you
nila.
saying, the parochiality of politics,
Yes.
is that what you're saying affects the
Definitely.
overall flood situation? Dapat kasi, ang flood control is a national decision.
That is
Tama?
correct, Karen. That is correct, Karen. So,
Oo.
yun po, to cut it that short, so Ronnie Zamora would write, errata, ibig sabihin, may mali, ayusin nila. So, yung pumping station, which will really take out the water, will become slow protection and drainage improvement. It continued kay Congresswoman Bell Zamora. Sana, I would want to, mabait naman sana yun. Sana, I'm hoping, I'm appealing. It's for the good. Kawawa naman yung people from San Perfecto, yung mga cars nila,
Okay. Oo.
properties, di ba? So, if it happens here, Karen, my point is, if it happens here in San Juan, I'm sure it happens also in other places. And my recommendation, if it's for flood control, sana we stick to the master plan.
Yeah.
Dapat po yung mga district, wag na tayong makialam dito. Pag national,
Oo.
identified
Tama.
national, dapat wag na natin pakialaman. Let it go through para po yung mga
Oo.
spillways, floodways, the big ticket items that are needed, impounding reservoirs, yan po sana ang matuloy. Hindi po yung mga patsi-patsim proyekto na hindi makakasolve ng baha.
No, I think that's a very good suggestion. I hope President Marcos Jr. I hope that suggestion gets to him and the DPWH that when it comes to flood control, hindi dapat suhestyon to ng congressman or mayor lang, but it should be a national plan wherein kahit magpalit pa, di ba? Ang mayor, ang congressman, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang plano. Di ba?
Actually,
Diba? Yun ang mahirap sa Pilipinas eh. Kapag nagbago yung nakaupo,
Palit na lahat.
nagbago na yung plano, it's terrible. Yeah. That's
Karen, actually, that's in hindsight, that's the very first bill that I filed when I went back to the Senate, the Comprehensive Master Plan for Infrastructure Development. Because of our political system na 3 years and 6 years, yung mga political leaders from the president to the local officials are only concerned of their legacy that they can leave behind. Short term and medium term tayo. Wala tayo ng long term.
Yeah.
Karen, I think one of the reasons also that were left behind by our ASEAN neighbors in terms of infrastructure development. Kasi nga, when you talk about infra, for example, railways.
like a fast railway. Huwag
Yeah.
na LRT, MRT, a fast railway. O, go on.
Karen, that takes about 20, 30, 50 years of planning, execution, funding, lahat. Kung titignan bawat presidente 6 years lang, talagang wala magagawa.
Parang hindi niya ipaprioritize, no?
Yes. That's why
Hindi matatapos.
in my bill, as you mentioned, whoever sits as president, he may have their own pet projects or program for his 6 years, but big ticket items in infra should be continuous kasi nga 30, 20, 30, 50 years ang planning and execution. So hopefully, it gets past this Congress.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well said. And my last question on this now, before we go, is about online gambling and gaming. So you have your colleague, Senator Mig Zubiri, who's given a privileged speech, no? And Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is calling for the decoupling of e-wallets. Kasi yung e-wallets, nandun ang game. Bago ka makalaro ng scatter, dapat may pera ka sa e-wallet mo like GCash or Paymaya. So where do you stand with online gaming, gambling?
Actually, Karen, actually, I'm also one of those who was vocal at first, no? Because I know that as I mentioned, this online gambling now is worse than Pogo.
Yeah.
Pogos, at least,
Foreigner ang naglalaro.
Pera ng foreigners yun na pinapasok dito, kung wala lang sana yung crimes, it would have been good for us kasi that's foreign money coming in. But this one, yung online gaming is victimizing Filipinos and ordinary Filipinos.
The poorest Filipino.
The poorest of the poor. So, I also called the attention of the e-wallet apps, no? Sinabi ko na nga, GCash, Paymaya, and others. They are instruments, and enablers for online gambling kasi I tried it, Karen, before. It was so easy, 1 or 2 or 2 steps lang, you can already access
Exactly.
online gaming applications. When we caught their attention, naglagay sila ng safeguard, naging 3 to 4. But still,
Oh, but it's easy. We tried it. We tried it in the office also. It was so easy. But go on.
so I would think that the BSP has to step in while they were still discussing whether to ban online gaming or not. They can do already their responsibility by by regulating or prohibiting e-wallet applications like GCash and PayMaya by to become instruments or links to online gambling, kasi talagang madali with that. It's so easy, as you mentioned. 2-3 steps, you're there already. And we saw it for ourselves. Nandun lahat ng gaming apps, and you can access it through the e-wallet applications. So I think BSP has to step in and has to tell has to regulate or prohibit already these e-wallet applications from allowing themselves be used for online gambling.
Okay, all right. My last question, this is a light one, is I'm curious. How are you and your brother? I saw footage of you together. Nagsigawan pa sa Senado. Are you now in good terms with Senator